the only show in the world where every 4 to 6 minutes a Beatle drop.
I'm not a Mexican guy. I know that this is one of those, it's like a Mexican network almost kind of thing. I gotta not embarrass myself. I gotta represent for the Raza.
Is there like an episode that you guys like that haunts you?
Now I know that Trump's gonna go to some special prison or whatever. Say he was put in like a normal ass prison. How does he assert his dominance?
And the soundboard had a soundbite of Joe Biden going, "You ain't black."
Grandma, this person isn't your friend. They're not looking out for you or me. You need to block them.
I had my mom blocked for a long time.
We need more guests with breasts, too.
Yeah.
It's hard to get women to come on the podcast. As an adult, because I grew up Christian too. Grandpa, my uncle, they're all like, I guess they're called pastors, Spanish pastors.
There's got to be a word for that.
Pastor.
Pastor.
I love Al Pastor.
What's poppin'? It's your boy Moses, a.k.a. Nomo, chilling right here inside the Lit Out studio. I got two very special guests in the building. I got Mr.
I am Alex, a.k.a. at Bubbawhyy on Instagram and wherever. And, I mean, that's pretty much it for me.
And I'm David, a.k.a. Sultan Satire. Done with BAMFomania podcast, BAMFomania.com.
So welcome to Southgate, guys. Not sure if you guys been near Southgate before, but welcome to Southgate. Are you guys familiar with Southgate, the area over here?
Not really. I think this might be my first time driving through, but on the way here, I saw a really awesome church, like Saint Demaya or Demius, or is this Idimus? Is that something that like rings a bell?
Where was it? What street was it on? Because this is a Catholic city, so there's a lot of churches.
Swear to God, I was on that street for a while. You know, whatever. If you're coming from Long Beach, that was.
Maybe it was Long Beach Boulevard.
I don't know, man. It looked like it was from like the friggin' 1800s. It looked like it was still a mission or something. You know.
I live 7 miles down Century. I literally was on Century for 7 miles. If it wasn't busy, I would have been on the freeway, but I've been here, bro. I'm driving around all the time. I was in Southgate yesterday.
Oh yeah. So welcome to Southgate. I always tell people like it's the first and last time you're ever going to be here. The only time you come here is to be on the Lit Out podcast. So welcome.
Well, it's good. You got an excellent setup here. Are there people hiding in the other rooms while we do this, like like what we get down with?
No. There's no like what's it called, like
Producers
and shit. You know, telling me what to say.
It's a one-man show.
Exactly. Yeah. But you know, you guys have your own podcast. So before we get started on the other topics, I want you guys to kind of tell us what your podcast is about, how it kind of got started.
Hell yeah.
Well, I mean, I was like working a construction job, so I was just like listening to podcasts for 8 hours a day, essentially, and it got to a point where I was like, this does seem kind of fun.
What's poppin'? It's your boy Moses. We're taking a second from this episode to bring you a word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by us, The Lit Outlet. The best way to support the channel is to like, comment, subscribe on every episode. Don't forget the reels on Instagram. Don't forget the shorts on YouTube. Make sure you guys like and comment on everything you see from The Lit Outlet. Also, another big major way you can support the channel is to join our Patreon. The link is down below in the description. You can keep the channel alive by pledging $1 every month. You can also do $3, $5, $10, $20. But all I'm asking, if you're a Liddy and you're enjoying the content, to at least join our Patreon for $1 a month. Another way you can support the channel is to buy some merch. We got hoodies for $40 and we got t-shirts with this logo for $25. If you want to support the channel, those are the best ways. But also, if you want to just keep enjoying the content for free, you can do that too. I don't mind. So I want to say thank you to all of our Liddies who are watching, liking, subscribing to all of our content here. Now let's get back to the show.
And that was kind of it, but I'm not so delusional that I think that I could just do a podcast without any sort of gimmick. So me and David and a third dude at the time, we came up with the idea of like also doing freestyle raps while we did it. And initially, actually, we were ordering food for delivery that would get. When it was delivered, we would go out and ask the delivery guy. It's like, would you be down to give us 30 minutes? We'll just talk to you about whatever the fuck is going on real quick. It was kind of like interview the delivery driver.
Which was insane.
Yes, and most delivery drivers, we had one success, and it was actually a pretty good episode, and then after that, no delivery drivers were wanting to do it. They were just like, no, I gotta get back to work. So then that makes sense, yeah.
No, yeah, I wasn't really on the podcast tip, and I was actually like not into it at first, but the freestyling thing was like, okay, because basically it's the only show in the world where every 4 to 6 minutes, a beat will drop, and then we start rapping about whatever the conversation is about. So a lot of weird raps emerge, and it seems like if you're not famous or interviewing somebody, that's something interesting that keeps people entertained, and it keeps you on your toes. Like you're really never able to just phone it in. You have to a lot of times I'll phone it in and then the rap will suck and then I'll be like, dog, I need to step it up.
There was a very long period of time where we just didn't have guests at all, and it was just us doing it. And I mean, it does seem like since we've started actually bringing other people into the fold, it's grown way much.
He wants us to do more solo stuff.
I like your solo shit, dog. I don't know. I feel like you guys have a really good dynamic. And I feel like you come out more when it's just you two. I feel like you're more yourself.
Fair enough. Yeah, I kind of feel like when we have a guest, I'm trying to snipe. I'm looking for opportunities to get a solid joke in and whatnot.
Very tactical, you know.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe that's just I'm a shy guy. But that's one thing that I appreciate about getting all these interesting guests on our show is that it forces me to come out of my shell in ways that I normally would absolutely choose not to. So that's a.
Do you think podcasting has changed your life?
Yeah. I mean, it's sad to say, but it kind of is my life at this point. I mean, I do videography work outside of that, but as far as like any extracurricular hobbies, it's just I'm just working on this podcast shit. So it has definitely changed my life in that sense. I think that
for the better.
Yeah. Well, socially, it's for the better, but then also sometimes for the worse.
Why? What do you mean?
Because you gotta be real if you want to be entertaining in any way, shape, or form. Like the podcasts out there that are never gonna find any success are the folks that just talk like they would in at dinner with their family and friends or whatever. And sometimes you kind of have to say some shit you would never say in front of your grandparents or stuff like that, and then that gets out there on the internet, and that's not something that I really ever did until I started getting into podcasting.
We also didn't do it for like over 100 episodes. Like I feel like we started getting looser after a certain number of episodes where we were like, fuck, I don't give a shit if my mom sees this anymore, or if a relative sees this, or if some chick I dated in high school sees this. Like you end up just being like, I just have to. If you don't do that, you start sounding like a corporate America Zoom call where you're just speaking fake the whole time. It sucks, dude. I hate it when people talk like that.
When we were working on our first reel that actually had like a ton of just swearing, it's like we weren't even talking about like sexual shit or like something more nuanced that would be offensive. It was just cursing, and I was like, I don't know, man, this is kind of intense. Are you sure we should put it out there? I swear to God, one time someone sent my grandma a clip from the show that had a bunch of cursing in it and whatnot, and she like hit me up about it, and I was like, who the fuck is sending my grandma shit to like tattle on me or something? Like what is the mindset behind that? All you're doing is distressing an old woman that's on death's door.
Right.
Grandma, this person isn't your friend. They're not looking out for you or me. You need to block them.
I had my mom blocked for a long time because she would get so hurt, and I just didn't want her to suffer. I was like, this isn't for you.
What was she getting hurt about?
She just see me talking like just gnarly shit or like being whatever, and she's like a good Christian lady.
No, if I just say like fuck in the presence of my mom, it'd be as if I was like, Mom, you're stupid. That's the offense that she would take to it.
It's insulting to her. Yeah. We both have very conservative families, so we betrayed them by our interests.
You guys focus on rappers coming on the podcast because of the freestyle aspect, right? Have you ever had any rappers come on and just do really bad at the freestyle and you're like, wow, this guy sucks?
Usually people are totally decent because I'm not kind of trying to say we're any good either, but it's sometimes people really drop the ball and it is a little bizarre, but at the end of the day, I know that we also drop the ball often, so it's something that never really sticks with me per se. There's obviously some that are better than others, and those are usually the ones that we're gonna be eager to hit up again to come back on. But
the hardest part is when people don't stick to the program. Like, the idea is when the beat drops, you rap about whatever you're discussing. So if you're talking about a certain movie, now your rap is going to be about the movie, and then it'll come to the person that we're having on, and then they'll start just rapping about whatever. And I'm like, yo, you're missing the point right now. The point is to stay on track, which I get. When you're on the spot like that, I used to do it too. Like earlier on, I would just start freestyling, which is fine, sort of, if you're trying to survive maybe one of these freestyles. But the goal is to stay on topic, and I think that's what makes it funny, because, you know, like last week we were rapping about Snow Dogs, like the movie with Cuba Gooding Jr., and it's just a weird thing no one's rapped about that before.
yeah, I think we made the first Snow Dogs track. Unless I wouldn't be surprised, because when that movie came out, original movie soundtracks always had like a song for the film.
Like maybe there's a Will Smith song.
Straight up, that song by Evanescence, "Wake Me Up," that was the Daredevil movie theme.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I swear to God,
That's a hit.
There's a music video that's like themed around Daredevil.
Yeah, that's always weird when they incorporate movies, like the movie scene,
Yes.
into the music video of the soundtrack.
The weird one for me is like that Drake, Kanye, Eminem song about LeBron.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, it's an early
seen it
song. It's
either.
dude, it's about let's go. I have to play it.
There you go, look it up. Okay, I'm excited.
Play it. I've heard this before.
Well, like there's other examples, like when Eminem did the Venom song for the Venom movie with Tom Hardy.
Big though, that shit slaps. Bro.
No, that's
Venom.
no, that's a hit. That's a hit. Or, you know, R. Kelly's "I Believe I Can Fly."
The fact that that was made for Space Jam is crazy.
Oh, that's for LeBron.
There was a LeBron documentary when he came out of high school. And it was for that documentary. That song was for that movie.
Careful.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, you're good.
whoopsie doodle. That's funny because I remember that song from
I've
a
never
Sprite
seen
commercial.
I've never seen the movie, the LeBron movie, but this song is such a banger, you know?
No, that song hits. That's definitely like a 2010 style hip hop song.
That was like the first Drake song ever, wasn't it? If I'm not mistaken.
Best I ever had was his
Yeah,
first.
I think that best I ever
But it was
had
close. It was very close.
it was up there.
They kind of sound similar now that I'm playing them both in my brain.
No, early Drake all sounds like R&B rap, early 2000s like type sound.
Well, the chorus for that song could end, and you could come in with the verse from Best I Ever Had easily, seamlessly.
That's a good point.
The RPM or whatever is the same.
Yeah,
BPM,
it matches.
beats per minute.
That's funny.
Is there like an episode that you guys like that haunts you that you like? We never gotta do that again, or I gotta make sure I don't do that again. Do you have like
Most of them.
any bad experiences?
Well, the easy answer would be the time that a guy walked out on the show. He was having a bad time. But honestly, there have been stuff that I would consider more unbearable than that. Like if I just am instantly getting a negative vibe from the guest, and it's just and they don't walking out would be good in that situation.
Relieve
You know what I mean?
me of my
Like
stress.
honestly, the time where the guy walked out on the show was like, oh, thank God. Now we can actually get to making a good
Yeah, we laughed a lot, and then I posted it on YouTube. You can go watch that on our YouTube.
Why did he leave?
Well, we had used an episode because I have to load in beats every week for us to rap, and sometimes I'm late and I don't get it done, so I reused an old episode, and we have a soundboard in there, and the soundboard had a soundbite of Joe Biden going, "You ain't black," which is usually funny. But
it's the origin of the soundbite is undeniably hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, how could you ever think that would go over well?
the guy was having a bad time. Like he already wasn't like he had shut down multiple topics that we had brought up. He wasn't really like.
Yeah, I swear there was something going on with Trump in the news.
Yeah, and I didn't want to talk about
Yeah,
it.
he was like, I don't really know about all that. And I was like, all right, I guess moving on.
And then the Joe Biden clip dropped.
Just randomly.
And then we
It shocked me too. I was just like,
yeah, we started laughing, and then he was like, he pointed at the people he came with, and he was like, "Let's go." And I started laughing. I was like, oh, he's leaving. And then he got up and left. And I was like, oh, no, it's cool, bro. And it was just totally weird. But yeah, I mean, there's been other episodes where we get into like a heated argument about some personal shit. Like, then it was earlier on, but
I actually enjoy those.
those are
The whole time I'm like, this is good content.
This is good TV.
But honestly, in my opinion, the stuff that irks me the most is it almost happens off pod. Sometimes people will hang out afterwards for like a weird amount of time, and you're like, okay. So what else you got going on today, man? Like,
what are you doing after this?
Yeah, you got to start introducing those passive aggressive.
It's also, well, sometimes we'll be feeding them drinks. So they'll be like, oh, I'm partying now. And so they switch into like because we like try to appreciate the people who like we feel like are doing a big shit and they gave us their time. They came on. So we'll buy like some fucking nice liquor or whatever. And then we'll start serving it up. We're all fucking getting loose. And usually I'll even be like, yo, take the bottle. Take it with you. Get the fuck out of here. But, you know, sometimes they'll want to stick. There was this one dude earlier on that stuck around for like...
He stayed for dinner. It was insane.
Yeah, but he would not leave, bro. He stayed for like 6 or 7 hours. And granted...
It makes me think that like he was trying to get some food out of it. He was hungry.
He didn't have a ride. He had to take the bus, like totally broke. And he was getting turned. One of the best freestylers we've ever had.
Yeah, that was ironic about it. He was actually really good
but had just natural talent. That dude had bars. But eventually, and at one point he was like, am I overstaying my welcome? And I was like sleeping on the couch. And I was like, nah, man, you're good.
Yeah, we both pushed out of that. We were just like, nah, man, it's chill.
Yeah. But I'm at a point in my life now where I'd probably be like, yo, I gotta get to editing. I gotta keep it moving. But at the time, I think we were just like, we also didn't start having guests for after. I mean, I think it was like 100 episodes that we didn't have guests, or that we just had like our homies on. Mm-hmm. So the kind of guest game, which you know very well, once that became a thing, we started learning about, you know, just like how to have people come in and out, maintain a decent dynamic, not fuck it up, you know. It's a process.
We need more guests with breasts too.
Yeah.
It's you know what? It's hard even for me. Like, well, not saying that I'm a big podcaster, but it's hard to get women to come on the podcast. You know, women are very used to posting a cleavage pic or a fresh makeup pic and getting all sorts of love. But when it comes down to like, let's say they want to post a video of them talking or making a point, they really don't get any love from posts like that. So they're afraid to come on podcasts.
Yeah, you feel like the internet doesn't reward women for speaking their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine it would be a little more difficult for you because at least we have like that sort of like, oh, you make music. Like sometimes the artists will want to come on because they're motivated to like share their stuff. But if it almost seems like you would have to bring on a female musician or artist or something like that. But honestly, why would you want to bring someone on who doesn't have any shit going on in the first? If all they're doing is posting pics on their Instagram and that's their success or whatever, that sounds like it might be kind of a boring interview.
Yeah. If you're just hot,
and it's not, you're not fresh and fit. You're not bringing them on to shame them for selling their bodies online, right? So it's not some corny shit like that.
Those clips are wild, bro.
No, there's a new one that's like...
Yeah. I know.
It's like a white dude.
It's a white dude, and he brings on 22-year-old girls, and then there's this really fat, ugly girl that he has.
But it's like he took all the worst aspects of that of that one show and was like, you know what, let's just only bring on like OnlyFans models, and then tell them that they're disgracing their grandparents. That's the whole podcast.
Do you agree? Do you think they're disgracing their grandparents?
I couldn't care less about what their grandparents
I think we are probably.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
depends on who their grandparents are.
Like everyone's disgracing no one's grandparents are proud of them like on a grand scale of things, you know
except
the
Amish.
Yeah, if you stay Amish,
you're doing something wrong if your grandparents are just like
super proud of you. Yeah, you're killing it at some accounting firm. I think that the only thing that I probably would be hesitant with, like if somebody I cared about was doing OnlyFans, I would say there probably isn't a lot of longevity in that kind of in doing porn, just because it's a beauty thing. So like your current state of beauty might not maintain over a certain period of time, but I think that if the person has good business mindset about it, leveraging the fame that you build from doing porn, and there's people that do that, like I'm pretty sure Mia Khalifa or Lisa Ann, they shift into being sports commentators because dudes who like sports like hearing some lady with tits talk. So it's like, I think somebody who is an OnlyFans person shouldn't look at it as like a long-term thing. They should probably look at it as a stepping stone. I think a lot of people in music do that too. Like dudes who rap for 10 years, then shift into like
selling vitamin water
or TV or sneakers. Like I think it doesn't have to be, who cares if people can look you up fucking somebody? That's awesome. I mean, I wish I had good footage of me doing that. You know what I'm saying? Not looking fat.
Well, to your point, there's the only thing that like it's anytime I ever feel a type of way about it, I can recognize that there is an aspect of it that is that I'm just kind of jealous that like if I could take, because it does feel like an easy route, but it's something I would do in a heartbeat if I knew it was a guaranteed option. I just because I don't care. I'll fucking whip my wang out.
If instead of having a conversation right now, you were just fucking some chick, it's still hard to film and edit and schedule and network. Like, I don't think it's easy just because you probably don't feel like fucking that often. Like these chicks have to like fake being horny. It's probably not that easy. But I get that there is a level of it that this seems like it has more intellect involved in it than just fucking and being animalistic. But I do think that having chicks on your podcast to shit on them for doing porn is...
Yeah, if you're a girl watching this, you want to be on the podcast, hit me up or hit them up.
He won't shit on you for doing porn.
Yeah. Unless you pay him.
Oh.
If you had stopped.
I was gonna say, but also too, like, how'd you guys meet each other? Where are you guys from?
I'm originally from Hawaii, and I went to college out in Michigan, and he also went to college out in Michigan from
Spain.
And it was, and we were both like corny Christian dudes that liked rap and didn't really understand like why it was cool, really. We were just like fucking rhyming, it's fast and all that stuff. And that was kind of how we connected. I was like, yeah. I was in rap, he was in rap, but we didn't really know each other. And a mutual friend was like, maybe you guys should meet and write some songs.
I had like, my dad is an audio engineer, so like he had recorded me rapping when I was a kid. And then when I went to high school, I sort of stopped. And then when we went to college, I was like, man, I got to get back into rapping. And this dude that I was working with was homies with him, and he was like, my friend raps. And so he linked us up, but we were making corny ass raps at the beginning. It was like, because we went to this Christian
we wrote a song about Columbine at one point.
Bro.
We were just like, there's evil in the world.
It was so bad. I think it's not on the internet anymore. We took it down. So bad. So there was like at least, I don't know, 2 years of that initial phase of us making music that was super corny and whack. Oh, sorry. Yeah. But then we sort of like abandoned our religious beliefs around he went first, and then shortly after I abandoned my religious beliefs, and that's sort of when things started to improve.
So you guys went to school to it was a Christian college.
Yeah, some like, shitty small Christian school.
It was supposed to like enrich your Christian beliefs, and did the exact opposite. Why?
Yeah, well, because it illuminates the like fact that organized religion doesn't make sense. Like, I think people can have religious beliefs and be spiritual, and they can have community, but once you take something and organize it around a religious belief, it starts to just be super fake and lame. It was also in West Michigan, which is like the whitest place on earth and is very conservative, so there was just a ton of just normal ass white people.
Like obvious white Christian hypocrisy aside, I think that what going to a Christian university does to demolish your faith the most is actually teach you more about the Bible. Because the more you actually learn about hermeneutics, the more you realize that it's just insane. Like everything that's written here is just like it could mean people have interpreted it this way, that way. It's almost like with the knowledge of all that shit, you have less reason to believe in it. That was kind of where I landed on in that pathway.
As an adult, because I grew up Christian too, and my grandpa, my uncle, they're all like, I guess they're called pastors, Spanish pastors. And then
there's got to be a word for that.
Pastor.
I love Al Pastor.
But like I guess I tried to like read the Bible as an adult, and it kind of feels like it's a long, confusing riddle.
It's boring as fuck.
And it's like it's not a cool story. Like there's no like, I guess there's like so many lessons in there, but it's just so confusing. And it's written like in Shakespeare type English, and it's like so weird.
Well, someone tried to use that as a reason why the Bible is valid and that you should believe in this, because why would they make it so boring?
Yeah.
It was like why would they include all this stuff about Shem beget Japheth and Japheth begot Argo and all those? There's a whole books of just that.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. The Old Testament is literally the Torah. It's just that's Judaism. Christianity is really the New Testament, and that shit was written hundreds of years after Christ died, and it was written by hundreds of different people who were alive at different times, and then eventually like a collection of like figures in like Rome said, all right, these are the books. Not Rome, later on. My history is fucked. But they eventually decided what books count. And then the Catholics were like, well, no, these other books also count. So the Catholic Bible has like 6 extra books that the Christian Bible doesn't have, or that the evangelical Bible doesn't have. For me, it was like, I took a history class at our school, and the dude who was teaching history like showed me how the brand of Christianity that my parents believed was like invented in like 1930 or like 1890. And I was just like, holy shit, this whole like accept Jesus into your heart, music at the church, whole thing, that shit was made up 100 years ago. Like that has nothing to do with what religion's about.
One of the things I'm self-conscious about with our show is when we inevitably get into relenting our Christian past. So if this is
yeah, we can stop whenever you want.
We can move on to the next thing. Well,
to me, like I like history, like in general. So like, and then religion is like, to me, it's just history. You know, like
made up history.
Well, like, you know, they say like the devil was the angel of music or some shit, right? And that kind of like makes sense to me. Like where like he got so popular. Like imagine like Drake was an angel, and then Drake thought that he was actually God, and then I was like, you know what? I fuck with Drake. Fuck God. I'm gonna go over here. And like now Drake's the devil.
Drake has taken a similar path of Lucifer, to be honest.
But I can see how like God would want to kick him out because that fool's getting too big as an angel. You know?
Yeah, don't outshine the master. First law.
No, I think that he's currently in snake mode, but he might make it back up to heaven.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just feel like it's super interesting, and like, you know, like as you know, being Mexican, I guess like being kind of like native to North America, or whatever. But I'm also like, you know, obviously light skinned, so there's still got to be some sort of Spaniard in me or European in me, right? So it's like I'm both, but like I don't know. I lean towards more Mexican. The Mexicans are Catholic. Mostly,
yeah,
right.
I think there's like the big difference between people who are culturally religious and people who like actually deeply are invested in the thing. So like, there's people who just, you know, they go to church Christmas, and it's common in Catholicism where it's just like that's the thing that you believe, and then.
But in Catholicism, going to church once a week would be absolute hell, because it's like what? It's like 4 hours and shit, and it's
very liturgical. Like they're repeating the same type stuff.
And it's like we're not even reading the Bible. Like the pastor or whatever gets like one fucking verse and just makes it about himself.
Yeah.
It's like,
and this made me think about the other day when I was at the market.
I could do that so easily.
No,
you know what I mean?
It's basically like the what's the wheel of death, or what's the freestyle thing that they do?
Oh, the 5 fingers of death.
5 fingers of death. But I pick 5 verses, and literally I am just freestyling up there at the podium. They're eating out of my hands.
And those dudes look like they're in the zone when they're doing it too, bro. It's like an art.
And then people are always like, man, your sermon really talked to me today. Like, all you really gotta pick is like people who are broke, someone's dying in your family, whatever, you're having trouble at home, like these 5 like topics, and you'll get everybody.
You can replace that fool with a psychic, and it's the same mindset.
You guys meet in Michigan, How do you guys end up in Cali? How do you guys do you guys move together to Cali just to kind of reunite out here? How does that work?
It was kind of a mutual assessment that Michigan wasn't really for us. Neither of us were from there, and we were there like we had been there for like 7 years at that point, and just we knew another winter was coming, and just all this stuff that was like we should just go to California. There was definitely something in our head that like once we got here, more like opportunities would open up for us. And that really never happened. We've still just created all of our own opportunities. So
Yeah.
in theory, we could probably be doing just as well back in Michigan. But I personally can't stand the winter.
I think we also maxed out our potential out there in regards to, because we put out a project in like 2015, and then we opened at like the main venues that were over there. So we performed, like we opened for multiple artists. We opened for Post Malone before he was really big. We opened for R.A. the Rugged Man, and just like a couple other artists that were in town. And then we did our own shows, and because we were like really tapped into our network over there, people would come to the shows. So like we got to perform a lot. And then when we came to LA, because we were it was the winter, but also like the culture of West Michigan is not very abundant, and like it's just like tons of just white people. So when we came to Cali, we immediately just ate shit because we didn't know anybody. There's now a million other people trying to do what we're doing. And basically for like 2 years, we just did the podcast at home, made music and like filmed videos. And then when we relocated to Long Beach, because we lived in Koreatown for 2 years when we moved. And that was surreal. And then we moved to Long Beach, and that's when we started like filming the podcast. We started DMing guests, and that's kind of when shit started to happen a little bit. But it took a lot of effort. It wasn't like natural at all. We didn't like meet somebody and then they were like, I'm gonna put you on this show or some shit. Yeah. It was easier in Michigan. There was less people doing cool shit, so like we stood out a little bit more.
Also, like in Grand Rapids, you do a few shows, you got people coming up to you on the street that you've never seen in your life, being like, "You're in BAMFomania."
Yeah. Like you felt like I low key knew so many people. Like went to every bar, felt like a fucking local celebrity, and then you get to LA and fucking reality check. You're a loser.
But I think that matters.
Yeah,
you know?
it's important. I
you,
think
you could get stagnant in a place like that.
Oh yeah, there's people there. Looking back, there's people that I still like fuck with from over there who are like doing the same venues over and over again, and I'm just like, that's cool. They're getting to perform, but I think there comes a point with music artists that performing isn't important. Like you should just be making music, making content, networking, and then yeah, maybe performing occasionally. But I think there's this like narcissism with wanting to just get on stage over and over and over again to get applause. It's not actually making you better on stage. Like I think if you put out a ton of music and then started to catch a wave online or started to make some shit happen with your music, then you would get an opportunity to tour, and then you would fucking perfect your performance. But right now, like I would view it as a waste of my time to chase performing every night or every weekend. But like it's better invested to make the music better.
Do you guys feel like your music's improved since you guys moved out here?
It's improving is just like something that happens naturally as long as you keep doing the thing. So just with time, everything improves really. But I guess to what I said before, it'd be easy to get stagnant in a place where it's, you know, more insular. It does seem like you broaden your like social vocabulary in your music by changing your surroundings, I guess. I don't know, really. It's one of those things where as long as you keep writing, you're going to improve no matter what. But if you've got an audience that will just eat up anything, if like, and honestly, I see this in California artists too. There's a lot of California artists that will just like rep their town that they're from or something. And I do think that it's important to do that, but you also don't want to put yourself in this box where it's like, oh, now you're the IE guy or some shit like that. And maybe that comes from us like really not having anything to represent. Like, I'm not out here like, yo, Hawaii is tight. You gotta go and do some Hawaiian shit. Like that would be ridiculous. You know?
I think like geography matters more to people who are from California, and I think it's also just cool because of like the hip hop from the '90s, like Straight Outta Compton, shit like that, that popularized repping neighborhoods of LA, and that's why it's cooler. Like when I hear people repping their neighborhood in Texas, I don't think it's cool. It's just because like you've heard fucking Dr. Dre talk about Inglewood, you've heard Snoop Dogg talk about
right,
Long
like
Beach.
just because like it's not, you're not in a gang just because you're from the Inland Empire.
It's just I think that it's easy to be redundant in rap music, especially because
What's poppin'? It's your boy Moses. We're taking a second from this episode to bring you a word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by us, The Lit Outlet. The best way to support the channel is to like, comment, subscribe on every episode. Don't forget the reels on Instagram. Don't forget the shorts on YouTube. Make sure you guys like and comment on everything you see from The Lit Outlet. Also, another big major way you can support the channel is to join our Patreon. The link is down below in the description. You keep the channel alive by pledging $1 every month. You can also do $3, $5, $10, $20. But all I'm asking, if you're a Liddy and you're enjoying the content, to at least join our Patreon for $1 a month. Another way you can support the channel is to buy some merch. We got hoodies for $40 and we got t-shirts with this logo for $25. If you want to support the channel, those are the best ways. But also, if you want to just keep enjoying the content for free, you can do that too. I don't mind. So I want to say thank you to all of our Liddies who are watching, liking, subscribing to all of our content here. Now let's get back to the show.
you run out of subjects. So it's actually, I think that's the thing that I've learned the most since not just being out here, but just making more music, is that I eventually just started writing about shit that I usually wouldn't write about, or writing about stuff that doesn't sound necessarily cool on the surface. Like rapping about shit that is super personal to you and is relatable isn't always going to come across as cool. Like I wrote a song a couple months ago about like just having vivid dreams and having trouble sleeping. That isn't cool or like for the radio. It's just like I legit have trouble sleeping.
I had this dream last night. I was in a room with one of my nephews, and I don't know which one. They're like 6, average age 6. I'm not sure how old they are. And he grabbed a pair of scissors. And immediately, just by the look he was giving me, I'm like, shouldn't have those scissors in his hands. I'm like, no, sir, taking those. But then there was like just another pair of scissors over here, and he grabbed those. And I'm like, what? No, man. Like, and then there's just another pair of scissors over here, and he runs over and grabs those. And the dream was just me infinitely like taking scissors from my nephew. And I don't know, like, you got any opinions on that? Like, what?
No, I have no idea what that means.
My sister told me that it could. She sent. Where's the text? She sent me a dream interpretation of it.
Whoa.
Let's see. They're her kids. What does it mean when you have a dream where someone is trying to stab you? Not really what my dream was.
Well, you were worried that it was danger.
But how much damage could he really do? I would have to be asleep, and he would have to get a really good jab in order for. But anyway, to dream of being stabbed is a reflection of the anxiety and insecurity that you are feeling during the day. It represents people in your life that shouldn't be trusted, who either want what you have or simply don't want to see you doing well.
Wow, dude.
You know what I'm saying? There's more. Hold on.
That's spot on.
In most cases, psychologists and dream experts note that these dreams usually represent feelings such as vulnerability, powerlessness, or an unresolved conflict that hasn't been addressed in your waking life. Until you take time to work through it, these dreams might return. It hasn't returned yet, so maybe I should wait.
Well, I mean, it just happened.
It just happened. You're right. I should wait to sleep once more.
I dreamt about my ex last night and told my girlfriend about it, and that went super bad. But I usually don't tell her about it. But whenever I don't tell her about it,
You shouldn't have talked about how hot it was.
I had a really hot dream about my ex last night. No, I had a dream that my ex...
She did things you would never do.
I had a dream that my ex, I was like walking in the street and I was like, hey, what are you doing here? She's like, oh, hey. And I was like, I'm happy you found somebody. And it was actually like very positive. It was kind of corny.
You got closure in a dream?
I got closure in the dream. I think it's because I saw her on Instagram married the other day. And
Whoa.
yeah.
Interesting.
Seeing your ex married on Instagram.
It's weird, right?
Plus, I don't give a shit that she's married. I don't think that she's achieved more than me because she's like legally bound to this man. I'm happy and in love, so I don't give a fuck that she's married and I'm not.
Doth protest too much.
I'm showing my hand by being too vocal about this point.
You guys definitely have, obviously collaborated on podcasts, but you guys also have like singles, musically by yourselves and stuff like that. How does that dynamic work? Like, when do you guys have a lot of songs together? You guys are considered a group? Or you guys single artists? How does that work? What's that dynamic?
I haven't released a lot of solo stuff in a very long time. Usually if I'm rapping, it's something with him for the most part, or something that someone else has asked me to hop on. I think I'm better as a feature artist because I'm a really good writer, but I'm terrible with hooks. So it's like one of those things where if you need someone to just destroy 16 or 32, I can come in and do that shit. But
he is.
To actually make the entire song something that you want to listen to, that might not be my forte, to be honest.
When we first started, our like main goal was to make music as a group. So that was like our thing. And I don't think that I was as like developed as a writer. English isn't my first language. It is now. But at that time, like that was my first 2 or 3 years like studying in English when we first connected. So he was much better at writing than I was, I would say, and write things that I don't think made a ton of sense. So I think the collaboration was effortful to make my verses always make sense. And then over the years, I've improved. And I'm like, just very into making music. And he's like way more of a perfectionist. Like I'll put out something that he probably wouldn't because I don't really care. Whereas he'll polish something off for however many months, and then by the time it won't come out. Yeah. So then I got to a point where I was like incapable of being patient enough to collaborate with him on everything. So I was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do my own thing. But then it took like 6 years of like learning how to produce and writing and getting better. And now I'm at a point where I'm like basically dropping a song a week, a song every other week on my own, and then collaborating with people that we've met on the podcast. Sometimes he hops on. And that's mostly because I love doing it, but also because I think that there comes a point with making rap that you could potentially build a nice little income for yourself if you catch a wave on the internet. So I'm just attempting that simultaneously. And I think the podcast fan base could easily overlap over to the music. So I'm just like, these are the same thing. I'm just rapping and then also doing the podcast. And then, yeah, the music seems to be getting better and better. I make less shitty tracks less often, I think.
The median average is increasing.
How do you guys go about picking the beats for the podcast, the freestyle beats?
I pick the beats. I just go on YouTube. I have like 9 dudes that I really like, and then I sometimes will investigate the artists that we're having on, their style, and then I'll try to mimic that in the beats just to get some shit that they're comfortable with. Usually boom bap type beats, which is kind of like the 90s sound of hip hop, is what
the classic freestyle beats.
That's what's easiest to freestyle on. So a couple producers that I'll shout out. Fat Cat Beats is a YouTube channel that hosts a bunch of different people. And then Lethal Needle is one of our go-tos. Piper Beats, Lex Factor. There's just a bunch of guys on YouTube. They post their beats for free for non-profit because we don't make money. But eventually, I think the goal is to just self-produce everything. So I'd love to, if I don't have to like work to make money.
In theory, we could probably, like, anytime we have a guest on who's a producer, they're always like, yo, use some of my beats on the show or whatever. So in theory, we probably have a wealth of of guests that have been on that make beats where we could make it entirely incestuous in that sense, which maybe would be a good idea to go for. But it's so much easier at the end of the day to like actually like, because you're seeking out what you want it to sound like.
Yeah.
When some guy hands you like 10 beats, like use these or whatever, there might be they might not be freestyleable.
Yeah. I
do think
that we're also like converting the beat into enough of something new and shortening it enough to where we're not like limited on YouTube. Like YouTube usually doesn't copyright us or anything like that. But I do think inevitably as the show grows, we'll encounter an obstacle. Like we'll have to either have, like I could make 10 beats a week probably, but it would be a decent amount of effort. I mean,
I could not make 10 beats.
Yeah, I can make 10 beats a week for sure. And I don't have to even extend them. Like we rap 50 seconds. It's a minute. So I really would just have to make 10 1-minute beats. That's totally possible. If I'm not working 40 hours a week.
I don't know, man. You've set up a pretty big nail.
Bro, I'll make 10 beats this week, bro.
Okay.
I fucking swear to God. I'll make 10 beats tomorrow.
That'll be tight. You know, a lot of people probably listening to this, or just people in general, think that podcasting is easy. A lot of people want to start their podcast. You guys being consistently dropping episodes, right? Is there like a behind the scenes aspect that you think makes podcasting not as easy as it looks? Like, is podcasting hard or is it easy for you guys?
It's hard in the sense that you have to make clips of your shit afterwards and post them and whatnot. Honestly, the hardest aspects of it to me, and honestly, once I'm working on the clips, it's not that hard. It's just the knowledge of, now I have to dedicate this time. It's, I swear, the hour before the guests are supposed to arrive, I'm just like, shit, man, I hope this dude's cool. I hope that this podcast goes well. Like, that to me is the hardest thing
Like
that
the
I
nerves.
experience. Yeah.
I think the hardest part has been, well, because you're by yourself, but you had a co-host at one point. I think the hardest part, because most podcasts have multiple people, at least 2 people, is like developing an effective communication strategy long term, because we had to like figure so much shit out together. And I know people who have started podcasts who stop because the dynamic with the person, it doesn't pan out, and there has to be this like commitment. It's almost like a fucking marriage. You have to commit to not bringing up divorce.
It's almost like, though, with that said, if that is something that you're interested in doing, if you wanted to start a podcast, just fucking do it. Just start the podcast, and you will know, like, if there's a week that you miss and then the next week you also miss, then that's your sign that it's not your thing, really. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I wouldn't go so far as to be like, don't do it, it's oversaturated, blah, blah, blah. Because honestly, even though it is oversaturated and 99% of podcasts are corny and lame, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have the desire to create a thing. Even if creating a podcast is the easiest shit to do at face value, because all you're doing is just, you get 2 or 3 people in a room, and there's aspects like mics and DAW programs or whatever that people don't think about, because technically there are successful podcasts that are just filmed on an iPhone just because the person's famous enough, or maybe so it's not hard to do. It's one of those things that just do it, and the proof will be in the pudding. You will know in 6 months' time whether or not you really want to keep doing this. So it's just, why not just do it?
Also, I would say avoid entertainment. Like, I would focus on making a podcast about something that, because that's the thing that's hardest for me, is that our product that we're selling is entertainment. So you have to like us and maybe be a fan of rap music. And then, like, we can't promote a single thing. But if you start a podcast about, I needed to think of something.
Bananas.
No, not bananas. Bananas is too basic. About being a vegetarian. start a podcast about vegetarianism and you're a vegetarian, now you're fucking locked in.
I'm thinking going bananas with David Haddad. This week, Chiquita. We have our guest, Nomo.
I think there's something there. What I'm saying is a niche that you're passionate about. Like I could do a podcast about leaving. That's actually shout out about leaving religion. I could do a podcast about leaving religion, and I feel confident that I could talk about that for an hour every week with hundreds of different people, and I would have unique insight about it because of my upbringing and where I'm at in life now.
How do you find guests for that? You go on Craigslist, like, you have a traumatizing religious childhood?
There's got to be other content creators that are anti-religion or whatever. But you know what I'm saying? Like, that's something that I have insight on. Whereas people start podcasts where they just want to talk to her. Like, what we're doing is easier because we know how to freestyle, sort of. So that gives us a pass. But if the podcast is going to be like just you and somebody talking, you really have to have a core subject matter, because you're not going to attract people without you having a subject that they're interested in.
Also, a tip, just shit on people. If you want to start a successful podcast, just be negative about people that are more successful than you, because that seems like on the fringes, like especially what I see on like YouTube, just and put their face as the thumbnail.
Yeah.
And whatnot. Just like, this is why Amy Schumer sucks. And then boom, you've got you're gonna get some views on that, no matter what. And you're technically introducing evil into the world that shouldn't do that. But you're gonna get those numbers.
Have you heard the stupid stat, like 90% of podcasts don't make it past 4 episodes or some shit like that? Is that still in the number that's accounted for, like, the millions of podcasts that exist? Like, if you only dropped 4 episodes and quit, does that still count as a podcast? Or are the podcasts that we're accounting for 100 plus?
Beautiful angel Amanda Bynes wanted to start a podcast, and then Drake turned her down to be a guest, and then so she just abandoned it. She was like, I guess I'm not doing a podcast.
Damn. That's crazy. She has a lot that she could talk about. So child stars?
Drake?
No.
He's technically like a child star.
No, but I'm just saying, like, she could just talk about being a child star and start outing Dan Schneider stuff and, like, start saying a bunch of shit about working at Nickelodeon. That's money. Like, she has way more grounds to do a podcast with or without Drake. Fucking Bobby Altoff needs Drake.
I was just using her as an example, but now that we're talking about Amanda Bynes, I don't think that she would be able to maintain a podcast.
Well, she would get a producer. It's like how Mike Tyson has.
I don't think she has the stream of consciousness present.
That's what I'm saying.
Host a show.
These wild characters like Mike Tyson, he's got some white dude over here with a headphone.
I think Mike Tyson could just keep talking.
No, dude, I'm gonna take mushrooms again, and then we're gonna sit here, and it's gonna be all like, I licked the toe last week, and you know what I'm saying, with the fat.
So you're saying that Amanda Bynes has CTE
from being a child star?
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Mike Tyson just hit some DMT, go into a fucking rabbit hole, and then come back with, oh shit, that was a good podcast.
I think we just think it's funny to see Mike Tyson sit there, be all fucked up and smoking weed with some famous person who's willing to be there because he's Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson's a natural entertainer. Like, he could just be telling you about his trip to get eggs, and I'm there. You know.
Oh yeah, 100%. So, I love Mike.
I don't know. I wouldn't use Mike.
I just try to shove Mike into the conversation so I can do the impression.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, for sure it's easier for famous people to start a podcast because people fuck with them, they're gonna listen to them no matter. People always want to get insight of their favorite celebrities, right? But for example, for me, like, a lot of my podcasts that's been successful is because of the guest. The guest already has an audience that came to see it, and for me, it's like I want to interview interesting people who I think have an interesting angle of whatever topic it is. But in order for the podcast channel to grow itself, I feel like I have to put myself out there more, right? Because a lot of times in the interviews, I'm just asking questions. No one's really getting to know me, right? So like, doing other stuff like vlogs or even single camera, just me talking to the podcast about certain topics that I'm like, like you said, interested in. I feel like in the future, I have to start doing that if I really want the channel to grow, right?
1,000,000%. In fact, we've already like kind of decided to do one episode a month that's just us, because it does seem like at the surface level the only way for immediate growth is if the guests that you have, you know, they collab on the Instagram posts and then everyone can see it, and then hopefully you get some of that runoff or whatever. But you really, like, all the podcasts that I used to listen to a ton, I actually really connected with the hosts themselves, and I kept going back to it for that. It didn't really matter who the guest was because I knew that the hosts were going to deliver, and so yeah, to your point, like, that matters a lot. It's hard to do because I know that initially it's going to be like, oh, no one even listened to this, that kind of vibe. But also, we do have a couple of people that, like, on our Patreon especially, like, there's some dudes that I feel like do vibe with us as people.
They care about us and our brand specifically, and like the things that we talk about. And I think that's something that you're building, where eventually you'll do or say something and your fan base will be like, Nomo would say that, or that's so Nomo. And it's just something where it's harder because you're by yourself. But I think it's realistic that you could also do more scripted videos where you're digging into a subject, like when you're doing that new stuff, and I think that has potential to show your personality.
I feel like the capacity to podcast alone is like indicative of mental illness. Like, that's insane that you can stream of consciousness talk about a thing without anyone in front of you. Like, like what I was saying before about a pastor, if I just have 5 verses, I could riff for hours with the audience there. But I would start to, just with the knowledge that I could edit it, I would be doing stuff like, I'll do that one more time kind of thing. Like, and that would work. I would lose the flow on myself.
No, I think that a lot of great podcasts do a lot more research than we do. Like, we are off the top, more entertainment, because our show is so in its nature improvisational. Other podcasts, they do like a ton of research on something, and then they fill the audience into the research. So you could do a lot of like LA related stuff because your show is a lot of LA people and LA culture. So I think that that's something that you could do, and you don't need to have other people involved, and then you can show your personality more and that type of shit.
I was thinking while I was taking a piss, because it's got these lav mics there, I'm like, man, I better not say anything bad about this podcast while I'm peeing.
To yourself.
We got a hot mic right here. One time I was shooting a music video at a venue, and usually when I'm doing that, I just kind of leave the camera rolling and just film whatever. And I went to the bathroom to pee, and I just had the camera, and while I was reviewing my footage, I just realized I just straight up was aimed right at my wiener, just full on out, peeing into the urinal, and I sent that footage to a client.
Oh, yeah. No way.
Yeah. They were cool though. Like, I warned them. I was like, "Yo, my apologies."
That is awesome, dude. Oh my God, I can't believe that happened. That's assault.
It was like I'm tight with the client kind of thing.
No, thank God.
It was like a joking kind of like, "Oh my God, that's so funny, bro." That's
I think it's so funny. Your dick is so small.
Bro, the camera adds 10 pounds. What can I say?
10 pounds. That's a hog.
We're definitely leaving this in the
Okay.
Now I know that Trump's gonna go to some special prison or whatever.
Should we?
I just want
It's on.
to like, how does he assert himself? Say he was put in like a normal ass prison. How does he assert his dominance? Like, is it just a?
That's a good question.
No,
Does he just immediately pay for protection from the biggest dudes there?
Well, I think he's connected, right? Because people respect him for what's it called? For freeing Kodak Black, and he freed Lil Wayne.
Oh yeah.
From Sweden or some shit like that, or A$AP Rocky. So he already has street cred.
That's big.
Now the choice is he's gonna go with the blacks, or he's gonna go with the Mexicans. You know?
Wait, he can't go with the Nazis?
He could go with the Nazis,
but that's not good.
They're going to be clamoring for him.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, "Yo, we need you on our squad." But I wouldn't be surprised if he goes with the blacks, because to your point, he fucks with black people in prison.
I think he walks in there with definitely a target on his back, but he can also flip that around and like promise some things in there. You know?
What's his first tattoo?
Swastika.
Damn.
What? We could get more creative than
Okay,
that, Dave.
It's like a golden tower on his back, you know, like a giant golden tower.
I think it's just Trump on his stomach.
Oh yeah, like one of the no, you're right. It's one of those. Yes, we got there. Hell yeah.
Oh my God, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
Donald Trump got
The
convicted
Don,
today.
maybe, or something.
Ooh, Big Donnie.
It says you're fired under his eyelids.
Oh yeah, you're fired. I wouldn't fuck with him.
Yeah, no, that's sick.
Oh my God. And Loki, he should just go bald in prison because he will look harder, I think.
No, he would go slick back. Be slick back.
He has nothing. If he slicks back, it's gonna be
Just bald.
yeah, because he does the forward comb over shit. I think.
I think it's okay to be slick back bald. That's some prison shit, right?
Right, it is.
You talking some prison dudes? I think it's bald slick back. That's some prison shit. And then he's wearing Chucks the whole time.
Yeah,
They give you slip-on bands in there.
Oh, so you can't.
Off-brand.
No Chucks in prison?
Remember when those black slip-on bands were really popular in 08?
No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what they give you.
Zac Efron wore them in High School Musical.
It's the same slip-ons that they give you for free at hotels and whatnot.
Pretty much.
Man, I don't
Made
wanna
out
go
of
to prison.
cardboard.
You did some time, right?
I did a few months.
But in jail.
Jail.
Yeah, I think I can avoid prison for good. I
Yeah.
just avoid the DUIs. Don't get involved in.
You don't really go to the prison for DUI.
No?
They'll let you out the night after.
But what if you kill somebody?
If you kill somebody, then yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The DUI.
I'm on my third murder via drunk driving. I'm probably going to prison.
No, after the first one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you just get pulled over when you're drunk, you stay the night and they let you out, then you gotta go to court a bunch of times, but you don't get prison time for that.
No. If
have to hurt
if you
somebody.
do some damage, under the DUI, yeah.
Or if you cause a big accident, you know, shit like that.
The other thing that I think would get me is like if I was for some reason just like holding a fucking kilo of cocaine or something, which I've never done, but I could see myself for some reason getting
Getting
involved
tucked into it?
Yeah, getting involved into moving some cocaine or something.
Right. I would have to. For me, now that I'm really thinking about it, it would have to be like a wild night out, and there would have to be other people involved. I don't think I'm ever gonna, on my own. I don't think I have the capacity to get arrested. Honestly, I would. There would have to. But I am a follower in the sense that if everyone's doing this crazy shit, I'm gonna maybe join in on that.
Doing it.
And so that would probably be the only scenario that I can think of where I would end up in jail is something like that, where I'm just sort of tacked on to this other
bar fight.
crazy shit. Yeah, maybe
Okay.
a bar fight. Yeah, I
And then
can
you
see
fucking accidentally kill somebody, you hit
right,
them.
right, and then I go to prison, and then next thing you know, I have to become the shot caller.
The guy with the biggest hair, he's a shot
I
caller.
love that movie.
Well, we'll end it on this. Like, what are some of the guests that you guys are looking forward to, or like a guest in that you have will be like a golden goose for you guys to come on the show?
What's poppin'? It's your boy Moses. We're taking a second from this episode to bring you a word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by us, The Lit Outlet. The best way to support the channel is to like, comment, subscribe on every episode. Don't forget the reels on Instagram. Don't forget the shorts on YouTube. Make sure you guys like and comment on everything you see from The Lit Outlet. Also, another big major way you can support the channel is to join our Patreon. The link is down below in the description. You keep the channel alive by pledging $1 every month. You can also do $3, $5, $10, $20. But all I'm asking, if you're a Liddy and you're enjoying the content, to at least join our Patreon for $1 a month. Another way you can support the channel is to buy some merch. We got hoodies for $40 and we got t-shirts with this logo for $25. If you want to support the channel, those are the best ways. But also, if you want to just keep enjoying the content for free, you can do that too. I don't mind. So I want to say thank you to all of our Liddies who are watching, liking, subscribing to all of our content here. Now let's get back to the show.
Currently, our golden goose is our boy Terry, who is just on. We get him on as much as possible. He's kind of like our go-to when folks cancel.
He's not our, I wouldn't say he's our golden goose. He's our regular. He's our reliable.
Oh, I see what you mean now.
He's like our make it or break it guest is what he's saying.
Yeah, if we had the game coming on soon, he would be our golden goose, but he's not in the cards.
I don't think the game would be able to hang. I think I've said names before, and it's something that basically anybody with a good amount of notoriety would do well. I just think popular freestylers are obviously the go-to. So like Harry Mack is a very popular freestyler who is like very fun, and he's been on comedy podcasts before. So I've reached out to his management and like gotten replies, but then it never comes to fruition. So that's kind of the person that I think that's the ideal guest. But there's obviously other very talented freestylers that I think would be cool. I do think that it's going to be difficult eventually to have on people who are just comedians or people who are not freestyling, because if you come on the show and try to promote something and get interrupted every 5 minutes with us rapping about whatever the fuck, it can be frustrating. You know what I'm saying? But I also think that it gives a level of authenticity to the dynamic, because a lot of times when I watch podcasts and people are like, and my new book or whatever, if instead you're just there and we're freestyling, and then at the end of the episode we're just like, oh yeah, this dude's got a book, check it out. I think that makes it more real.
The extent of our grifting is just trying to get people to sign on to the Patreon. We're not trying
That was
to...
that question. Okay, what do you guys do for Patreon? What do you guys offer? How much is it?
So $5 a month, $10 a month, or $20 a month, all tiers include all benefits. So we just ask people pay what they can afford. If you sign up and you give us your address, we'll send you free stickers. And the Patreon includes early access to episodes, usually about 72 hours early. Access to bonus episodes weekly. And then also my goal is to get access, for people to get access to bonus art. For the listener or the viewers, we do like digital illustrations every week for our episodes, and they're usually pretty fun. So I'm hoping that we'll get to a point where we can do bonus art that people will get exclusive access to on the Patreon. But for now, yeah, the stickers, the early access, and the bonus apps, that's kind of what we got going. And there's like a group chat that nobody interacts on right now. But
Same. I should tune on Rick's session.
they'd rather talk on Instagram, so that's really where we got people.
Yeah, which I don't mind.
Yeah. So
Yeah, no, I think even more so, just we're not trying to promote any like ideals or political views or there's nothing that your typical grifter podcaster would hinge his audience on. Like there's a million different examples, but we talked about like a podcast like Fresh and Fit before. They every episode of their show kind of has to be what it is because their audience are these sort of disenfranchised dudes who like don't understand, like they're targeting a specific. We're not targeting anyone, I don't think.
It's just entertainment.
At least that's kind of what I feel, but maybe we are inevitably targeting someone, but there's never been a specific like we need to talk about this because our general audiences are like 13-year-olds or some shit like that. And
that's the question I wanted to ask you guys. Like, how do you guys listen to the comments and the people who watch your video and like, hey, I want you guys to interview this person or that person? Like, because at the end of the day, I feel like the people who tune in weekly, like they are part of the community, and I feel like they should dictate a part of the direction the show goes in. Do you guys take that into effect, or you guys kind of just do your own thing?
We definitely listen, and we had on Princess Superstar, which is she has a very viral song right now called Perfect. She has like millions of streams a month, and she was recommended by a listener. And he was also a guest at one point, but he's a great illustrator. His name is Victor Cairo. He did an illustration for the show episode.
Shout out to Vic.
In the 190s, I think, or 180s is his episode, and he hit me up and was like, "Yo, you should have this lady on." And then I hit her up. She came through. Great episode, and she's in the realm of funny music, which I think is kind of our category. Funny improvisational music is sort of the label that I've sort of put on it.
Well, where do you feel like your audience lives more on? Is it Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or Instagram?
I haven't really paid attention to. We focus on Instagram, but I'm not really paying attention to. It's not on Spotify because our Spotify for podcasters is shit. If you go in there, there's some numbers, but it's not getting pushed a ton. And then I'm not keeping track of the stats on Apple. I only see like our stats on SoundCloud. That's our RSS host, and that's sometimes we get fucking 300 listens and sometimes we get 30. It's like give or take, and sometimes a certain episode catches a wave, and I'm not really tapped in to where that's happening. We're focused on Instagram and YouTube. That's kind of our, and then we had a thing do numbers on TikTok. So to me, TikTok isn't even. I just take whatever goes on Instagram and put it on TikTok. It's not a very deep strategy. Let's just say that.
We need to start doing them in Chinese.
Yeah,
You probably could too, with all the new AI shit.
I like what you're doing with the sponsors, dude. I gotta get a Chinese food sponsor.
Yeah, the sponsor shit is really well. Like I had my best months when I had like 3 or 4 episodes sponsored at one time. I broke like that's like my biggest month, like 1,200, 1,500. I did it for like 4 months in a row. But they catch on quick. We're like, all right, what guest is it now? You know? At first they're like, yeah. Then they're like, oh, this guest didn't get that many numbers. This one did. So that's when
They start to see the value.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. I think the bigger the show, the more realistic right now you're on some like grassroots sponsorships, whereas eventually it'll be like fucking MeUndies or whoever. Yeah.
Right, especially once people start to think of like the show is you and the guest and not just tuning in for the guest, maybe, which is something that I feel like we face a lot. Like, there's a reason why the numbers bump this week and they didn't this week.
Well, it's just we're not reaching their audience when they're not on. So when they're on, their audience is like, whoa, you're on a thing. And then they become aware of us. And then maybe we recruit 2 or 3 people to be fans of the show through that strategy. But yeah, it's hard. I do think we're going to do more solo stuff because of what you said. I feel like.
I like it. Well, first I want to thank you guys for inviting me to be on your podcast, which was now maybe close to a year from now.
We gotta do it. We're gonna do it again.
I'm down whenever you guys are down to invite me. But that was my first podcast as a guest, so that was a cool experience for me.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that was real tight.
I didn't realize that.
That's funny because that's one of the things that we have in the back of our heads. Of sometimes I'll ask people like, is this your first podcast? I'm like, are we popping the podcast cherry? It's like a mini thing that I'm like, oh, hell yeah, we did that shit. Yeah. Or whatever. I just assumed that you had been on a bunch of them. Yeah.
I've hosted my own, but I've never been a guest. That was tight. So thank you guys for inviting me to my first podcast. Thank you guys for pulling up, sharing your story with our listeners.
Thanks for inviting me. Honestly, I was like, I'm not a Mexican guy. I know that this is one of those, it's like a Mexican network almost kind of thing. I got to not embarrass myself. I got to represent for the Raza.
Yeah. The Raza.
He's a güero.
He's more of a gabacho than a güero.
Represent for the galachos.
Represent for the gazpachos.
The avocados are in the building. A gabacho means like an American, a white guy.
Yeah.
And a güero I'm a güero.
It's light skin.
I'm a light skin.
Yeah.
I'm a light skin Mexican.
That's funny. It's like when black guys talk about a white, like in Remember the Titans, there's a scene where one of the guys is like, he's just a light skinned brother. He's talking about the white dude, Ethan Suplee, the fat guy. I just think it's funny when people call people who are not of that race light skin.
I'm a man of the people. I'm a man of the world.
Nah, but you got good vibes. So it was an easy call to have you guys on here. Obviously, we'll have you guys back on here soon again to get more into detail about different stuff. But let the people know what you guys got going on, where they can find you and shit like that.
Obviously, tune into Dome with BAMFomania. Look up BAMFomania on Instagram, BAMFomania. It's a funny show. It's entertaining. We do freestyle raps and comedy. There's something in there for everyone, in my opinion. I don't know, maybe not your grandparents, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and you can go to patreon.com/Dome with BAMFomania if you want to support our show and just get extra stuff, early access. You can also go to BAMFomania.com. There's a website with all the stuff in there. I'm working on the website. It's getting better, but there's kind of a little bit of everything in there. And if you want to listen to my music or check my like music content out, at Sultan Satire on Instagram and all streaming platforms. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome, man. You guys already know what's up. Pull up, turn up, stay lit. We're still doing orders for the Liddy t-shirts. Tap in with that. We got hoodies on sale. Make sure you guys join our Patreon for $1 a month to support the channel. And like I always say, pull up, turn up, stay lit. Let's get it.